The weather forecast with Akenugas.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and a pleasure to have you again on this edition of the weather forecast. I hope you're having a beautiful time. Between tonight and tomorrow morning, we expect a calm weather to dominate the nation, with a possibility of a thunderstorm experience and a clouded sky in some parts of the east, southwest, and the Adamawa regions. We may get as low as 17 to 18 degrees in the northwest and west regions, the center, south, and the littoral regions expecting as low as between 20 to 24 degrees. Detailly onto the southwest this evening may be a thunderstorm except for the town of Mamfe, and by morning it would be cloudy in the entire southwest region. Next, we take you over to the east, where this evening there may be no chance of precipitation in the entire region, and by morning it may be cloudy associated with a thunderstorm experience in the entire east region. Lastly, in the Adamawa region this evening there may be a thunderstorm experience in Banyo, and by morning it will be cloudy associated with a thunderstorm experience. To protect yourself and others against the coronavirus, avoid hugging, stay away from congested areas, and in case of symptoms, call the number 1510. Have a good night.
Joins the globe to observe the International Labour Day under the theme Occupational Health and Safety Committee, Institution for Social Stability, Prevention, Productivity and Sustainable Development amidst no commemorative ceremony organized in the country due to the COVID-19 pandemic scare. President Paul Biya has been applauded for the measures put in place to lighten the burden of Cameroonians in some strategic domains of the economy. The decision, they say, is a welcome relief. Plus, the head of state 2 billion CFA francs gift to limit the propagation of the coronavirus in 360 subdivisions in the country has been saluted by grassroots populations who are already receiving the consignment via administrative authorities. And those are top stories. Good evening. Thanks for joining us on this edition of the 7:30 News. I am Gladys, TATAH. Today is being observed as the International Labour Day under the theme Occupational Health and Safety Committee, Institution for Social Stability, Prevention, Productivity and Sustainable Development. The Minister of Labour and Social Security kept workers awake. Gregoire Owona answered questions directly from workers through the CRTV web platform on topics ranging from the minimum wage package to the universal health coverage, as well as workplace concerns tied to the COVID-19 pandemic. Beatrice Losamba brings that live chat back to focus in the following report.
It was a 90-minute chat by the stopwatch, time during which the Minister of Labour and Social Security took questions live over CRTV web from workers staying at home to mark the May Day. Questions about the hygiene and safety measures taken in workplaces to reduce the impact of COVID-19 were first to come. The preoccupation fell in line with this year's theme and provided an opportunity for the minister to call employees' attention to the need for them to make traditional hygiene practices as stated in workplaces, which must develop preparedness and response plans in the event of future pandemics. Workers in the private sector expressed worries of being laid off due to the whiplash of the crisis on their enterprises. But the minister said it was out of question anyone got fired as a result. The minimum wage package, which stands at 36,000 CFA francs, was a subject of debate as many wanted to see it increased. To this, the minister said a decision like this would rely on the ability of private enterprises to support such wage burdens. The delay of the universal health coverage, which would reduce out-of-the-pocket health expenditures, is a common worry. Minister Gregoire Owona told workers to exercise a little patience as the COVID-19 crisis might have slowed down the process, but has not stopped plans altogether. The CRTV web conversation with the Minister of Labour and Social Security was enriched by the presence of trade unionists who were full of praise for government's recent measures taken to ease restrictions imposed by COVID-19 and make amends in some cases. But they had more to ask.
It's a very nice exercise because it permits me to keep in touch with workers at this Memorial Day.
It ends well for a May Day live conversation, followed by 12,000 workers from home and abroad.
The Ministry of Labour and Social Security commemorated the 134th edition of the Labour Day celebration with a live chat on CRTV Web, an exchange which called for a new mode of communication with masks. Joyce TATAH narrates to us the ambience which reigned before, during and after the meeting.
Trade unionists walk in for an hour 30 minutes live chat to mark Labour Day celebration. But before that, the main actor gets made up. Then the head of the CRTV web team gives the signal for the exchange with internet users to kickstart. Welcome to the wall of sign language, where the issues on the table are salient and one could forget one's lines, but there is room for a quick reminder. The entire crew of CRTV Web is at the fore, but despite their to and fro movement to ensure everything is hit-free, others still find the atmosphere conducive enough to cross fingers and doze of a little. At this point in time, it is Operation Live in the dream world, pushing some to sanitize their hands because these ones may return infected. An hour, 30 minutes later, the live chat ends. Time to revisit some of its challenges. The unusual commemoration of 2020's Labour Day wraps up on a stern but jovial note.
Workers the world over today celebrated the 134th edition of the International Labour Day on the theme Occupational Health and Safety Committee, Institution for Social Stability, Prevention, Productivity and Sustainable Development. The May Day, unlike the preceding ones, was observed without the usual pomp and color due to the coronavirus pandemic. However, the newsroom took an interest in knowing what trade unions have been doing to improve on the working conditions of staff. Yoti Kaleli Songe is our lady on that beat.
It's all quiet on the May 20 Boulevard in Yaoundé, but cheerful in some offices. These transporters, like many others, have been robbed of the traditional Labour Day march past and frenzy by the COVID-19 pandemic. Right now, consulting on how to improve on their working conditions brings some consolation. In fact, satisfaction when reminded of what staff representatives have been doing for them.
For example, on the way, when they will see any control that is illegal, we always try them to report. Then we take it to the radio. We try to meet the minister and see how we can resolve it. If you are in your house and you call for somebody to come and transport your things, on the way, if he's caught by police, they will not know that that is a transporter. It is his job. So I have been trying to bring them together so that they should be in a trade union that will tell them what to do to have their security as transporters.
There were allowances that were not being given, but today workers benefit.
And they will continue advocating for the respect of workers' rights.
We are planning to meet the general manager to sort of evaluate what has been done so far and see how we can change strategy to achieve better results.
For this year, I'll make sure that in unity with the Ministry of Transport, we will stop those fake controls that are stealing money from the transporters.
Even though the Labour Day celebrations this year were restricted, the importance of the day in society wasn't ignored, as this year's theme highlights the role of workers in sustainable development.
The 134th edition of the 1st of May 2020 was not celebrated in Cameroon with all the usual pomp and fanfare as it used to be the case. The COVID-19 pandemic has pushed the government to cancel celebrations, with May Days declared a public holiday. Our reporter Beatrice Ngum toured the nation's capital, Yaoundé, and says the holiday was respected to the fullest as the doors of most enterprises were shut. Beatrice?
Streets deserted, enterprises under lock and key. The euphoria of May Day in Yaoundé is absent. Most enterprises have opted to respect the holiday with reflections within the company. Adjustments in enterprises not observed by all. At the waste management company, for instance, it's work as usual. The theme for this year's Labour Day has been put into context. There is no room for feasting. Labourers from the company must keep the city clean.
We were used to working on May 20. After work, we will go for the enterprise feasting. Unfortunately, it is not the case today with the coronavirus. Even T-shirts we do not have. We hope things will get better.
Security companies too are busy. There is no public holiday for their guards. The safety of public enterprises must be secured round the clock. Workers in Cameroon are celebrating Labor Day this year without the usual parade. Under the theme, Occupational Health and Safety Committee, Institutions for Social Stability, Prevention, Productivity, and Sustainable Development, a theme expected to be observed in the working environment throughout the year.
The general merry-making atmosphere usually witnessed in drinking spots, nightclub, restaurants and other entertainment venues on May 1st is not the case this year. Proprietors of these business places say the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic has had devastating effects on their businesses. However, they are optimistic they will soon catch up with losses incurred. They have applauded government's decision of reopening their structures after 6 p.m. Romeo Kenyi visited some of these spots and now reports.
The orchestra would have been vibrating this cabaret with pleasant melody emanating from these musical instruments this Labor Day. It is not the case as the COVID-19 pandemic has enormously affected business year.
This place made about 10 million per month, but today it's less.
In this popular nightclub in Oja, a similar effervescence prevails. Workers are cleaning the hall, hoping to host some clients tonight.
Normally, by this time, last year, we are already selling hundreds. But today, it's sad. We are not even having a coin now yet. We don't know how we look like.
While dance steps are yet to commence in nightclubs, the different types of wines consumed on such occasions remain stocked in cellars.
There was like 400 enterprises who was coming here to buy for their personnel, but now it's not more of 10 who are coming to buy.
Restaurants, for their part, stay empty. No customers available.
We used to have clients coming from all over Cameroon, but due to the issue of this corona, we are having a lot of deficit.
Elsewhere, workers in the catering sector table a similar complaint. To them, they would have been receiving hundreds of clients if not of the current health crisis. Nonetheless, operators in the different sectors are now optimistic they will soon make reasonable profit following government's action lifting the 6 p.m. ban.
Chicken vendors have also been affected with the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic at the Vogada market here in Yaoundé, where chicken vendors usually make brisk business on feast days like today. The atmosphere was timid, as Alice May tells us in the following report.
The Vogada market looks bare on this May 1 day. Chicken vendors say they have barely sold a fowl.
There are no customers as compared to last year. The market this time has been very difficult because of COVID-19. We are managing the situation. There are no ceremonies and no demands. We wish that things would become stable so that we can sell our chicken.
Table bed traders say they have significantly reduced the prices, yet customers still complain it is expensive.
Customers are not buying. Everything has become difficult. We give out the chicken at cheaper prices, yet customers still don't buy. A big chicken like this one was sold at 3,500 francs at first, but today it is sold at 2,000 francs, yet customers still complain.
It is past midday and many of these chicken traders are losing hope of selling all of their stock.
No, the market is very bad. I've 100 chicken in the morning, but I've sold now 25 fowls. It's remaining 75. Last year was a better year than this year.
The situation seems to be so frustrating that many have deserted the chicken trade. Proof of the COVID-19 blow on the chicken sector is right here at the Vogada market.
Transporters, businesses and employers have started benefiting from the measures to ease the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, which Prime Minister Joseph Dion-Gute announced yesterday. While the measures represent government's desire to keep the private sector and households in Cameroon alive, they equally invite Cameroonians to remain on their guard by continuously applying safety measures such as the wearing of face masks and the respect of social distancing. Star Bidding correspondent Christian Che Atam in the following report comes back on the essence and meaning of the relief measures.
From the 18th of March, when emergency measures to check the spread of COVID-19 came into force in Cameroon, things have never been the same for businesses and households in the country. 95% of businesses recorded huge losses, especially in the transport, catering, and hotel sectors. employers and families in the country have also had to grapple with tough times. The 19 measures to ease the effect of COVID-19 on businesses represent the desire of government to help the private sector weather the storm. The measures will benefit transporters, hotel owners, restaurants, employers, and by extension, households in the country. The 19 measures were decided after consultations with trade unions and have been granted on a specific condition: the continuous respect of safety measures.
I urge the population to continue to strictly observe the barrier measures and all measures aimed at limiting the spread of the coronavirus in our country, in particular the systematic wearing of protective masks in all areas open to the public and the prohibition of gatherings.
It is thus clear that the relief measures do not represent any form of complacency in front of COVID-19. Proof is that, despite the relief measures, the government maintains a strong grip on measures to protect the country.
The President of the Republic has decided to extend the measures taken on 17th March 2020 as part of the COVID-19 pandemic response strategy for an additional 15-day period, renewable if necessary.
The 19 relief measures can therefore be considered as a gentleman's agreement between the government and the private sector, making special concessions during a period of emergency in the hope that beneficiaries will respect protection measures at all times and in all places.
Fiscal measures introduced by the state to keep businesses afloat as the COVID-19 rages have been applauded by economic operators. They include tax exemptions for parking fees, council taxes, and the postponement of tax declaration for companies. But what are the physical benefits? Gladys Takang in the following write-up attempts an answer.
Fiscal benefits. What every business person longs to hear, especially during moments of crisis. The support measures taken to ease the pressures caused by COVID-19 on economic activity are, on the one hand, postponement of certain fiscal obligations, and on the other, exemption from others altogether for a certain period. Those in the commercial transport sector, for example, will enjoy exonerations from parking fees and withholding tax for the second quarter of 2020. Taxis and motorbikes are concerned by this measure, which could be extended to the rest of the year. Similarly, petty traders will not pay council taxes, while hotel and catering sectors will be exempt from tourist tax for the rest of the 2020 fiscal year. Regarding statistical and tax declarations, the deadline to perform the exercise has been deferred, and so too the payment of land taxes, a reform introduced in 2015. The period of grace is September 30, 2020. On another front, companies directly affected by the COVID-19 crisis will not be subject to forced recovery measures, as this has been suspended. The parking costs and charges importers have to pay when their cargo exceeds the allotted time at the terminal have equally been suspended for 3 months at the Douala and Kribi ports. Essential goods are the target here. Companies which have made donations to contribute to check the spread of COVID-19 also stand to gain. The corporate income tax on these donations is fully deductible, meaning their tax liability has been lowered. Stocks of VAT credits for companies will also be cleared. 25 billion CFA francs is the package to be disbursed by the state for this purpose. The measures have been hailed by Cameroon's business world, many describing them as a sigh of relief.
Meantime, households have equally lauded the head of state's decision aimed at assisting them to recover from the hard times endured during the close down of some economic activities to limit the spread of the coronavirus. Ewana Epole reports about President Paul Biya's measures to favor households.
The head of state's decision comes at a time when households were already facing serious financial crisis due to the adverse effects of the coronavirus pandemic. The measures put in place by government through the suspension for a period of 3 inspections by the National Social Insurance Fund, the cancellation of penalties for the late payment of Social Security contributions, spreading the payment of the Social Security contribution for the months of April, May and June 2020, the payment of family allowances to staff of companies, the increase of family allowances from 2,800 CFA francs to 4,500 CFA francs will all enable households to recover from the hard times witnessed these past days. It's worth noting that the exemption for the second quarter from the withholding of council tax and the payment of market duties, suspended for now, will help petty traders, notably buy and sellers, to regain their lost capital, and this will consequently increase the purchasing power of households to better feed their families. According to the Prime Minister, Head of Government, Chief Dr. Joseph Diongute, the easing and support measures to relieve the sectors hard hit by the health crisis were taken by the President of the Republic, Paul Biya, following encouraging results observed in the implementation of the COVID-19 response strategy in Cameroon.
Let's now take you over to the Public Health Emergency Operations Center to meet our reporter Baldwin Sama, who is standing by with his resource person, Dr. Eric Tandy, to give us updates as concerns the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic in Cameroon. Well, Baldwin, happy Labor Day, and tell us what's new over there.
Well, good evening to you, Gladys, and happy Labor Day. It's my pleasure to inform you that tonight we have an impressive increase in the number of recoveries as far as COVID-19 is concerned in Cameroon, given that this Friday evening we have 19 new cases of persons who have recovered from COVID-19. And just to remind our viewers that this is the third time in a row this week that we've had 19 new recoveries daily, given that it was the case on Wednesday, it was the case yesterday, Thursday, and it is the case this Friday in terms of 19 new recoveries from COVID-19. And just to equally remind our viewers that these figures are dynamic because officials of the Ministry of Public Health, they keep receiving reports from the different regions of Cameroon, so these figures can change at any time. And since we're talking about recoveries, with our resource person, Dr. Eric Tandy, who is a public health expert in the Ministry of Public Health, tonight we wish to lay emphasis on life after recovering from COVID-19. Good evening, Doctor.
Good evening, Baldwin.
Doctor, let me find out from you, when somebody recovers from COVID-19, what is expected from him or her immediately?
Thank you very much for this question. Permit me, first of all, to wish everybody a happy Labor Day. Although health personnel were still very active at work, but I should congratulate those who observe this day in their various homes, which is very, very important. Coming to your question, how is life after being discharged from the hospital? I think here the individual has to maintain the degree of respecting all the measures that are being concerned, because before leaving the hospital, you are being counseled, you are being told what to do before you get back home to keep life going, to renew your life back in the community.
Is this individual, doctor, subjected to a particular diet, or let me say a particular medical follow-up, so as to avoid any possibility of him or her getting reinfected?
Not really, Baldwin. You know, some of us are already on specific diet based on our health conditions as prescribed by medics. But if you are not on any diet condition, but it's good to respect a balanced diet after living or after recovering from a health situation, it's good to follow up a balanced diet, but especially on vegetables and fruits in order to keep or replenish your immune system. I think any diet in that connection is very important to keep healthy.
And finally, doctor, under what particular conditions or circumstances can somebody get reinfected as far as COVID-19 is concerned?
It's very clear, very, very clear here that when you leave the health facility, although there is advice that are given to you, if you don't respect all the measures that have been prescribed by the government, and then you might get yourself into a mess again. Don't think that you've had some immunity because you have been infected. You are expected to observe all the advice and all the measures that have been prescribed by the government, and above all, maintaining and respecting social distancing and staying at home as much as you can.
Thank you so much, Doctor, for always being available as a resource person on the 7:30 newscast. Well, Gladys, on this special day, May 1, when Cameroon joins the international community to observe the International Labour Day, special thoughts go to our staff of the Ministry of Public Health, especially the medical personnel who are taking care of the different COVID-19 patients in the country. They who have put in so much effort, they who have dedicated so much time to see to it that they save as many lives as possible, with a clarion call from the Ministry of Public Health being that Cameroonians should continue respecting the different outlined government measures to bar the way to the spread of COVID-19, especially the wearing of a face mask in public places, the respect of social distancing, and equally hygiene. Gladys, the take-home message from here tonight is that 19 new cases of recoveries have been confirmed in Cameroon tonight. Back to you, Gladys.
Thank you very much, Baldwin Sama, and happy Labour Day once more. And administrative authorities of the Center region are already in possession of the head of state's anti-COVID-19 donations. Center Governor Narcisse ROAMA officially launched the distribution exercise in Bankomo in the Mefo and Akono division with instructions that the kids get to the target population. Details with Kwanchua Marie Cledo of our Center regional station.
The fight against the COVID-19 pandemic in the Central region has received a new impetus following the handing over of head of state's anti-coronavirus kit. The package comprised household buckets, cartons of washing soap, hand sanitizers, as well as face masks. Handing over the gift, the governor of the Central region insisted on the effectiveness of distribution of the gift to the targeted population.
There is a commission which has been created in all the subdivisions, involving all the living forces. You have the pastors, the priests, traditional rulers, forces of law and order. At the head is the subdivisional officer to be sure that each person who receives the gifts can be traced and that the gifts are not used for a different purpose.
While receiving the gifts, authorities expressed gratitude to the head of state.
We are very grateful. I had the honor to express our gratitude to the head of state on behalf of the populations, and we are going to use it in order to contribute in the fight against COVID-19. And we say again, thank you.
After the regional launch in Bankomo, Governor Narcisse ROAMA and his close aides proceeded to the Yaoundé 3 municipality, where he assisted at a similar exercise.
In a related development, the consignment of kits donated by President Paul Biya was equally received by Far North Regional Governor and distributed to the senior divisional officers for onward transmission to the 47 subdivisions of the region. Governor Mijiawa Bakari prescribed national distribution, while the beneficiaries expressed gratitude to the head of state for the gesture. Details with Ayok John Ashu from CRTV Far North in Marwa.
Administrative and municipal authorities from the 6 divisions of the Far North region watched on as the content of the special presidential gift to the population was offloaded from the convoy. Meanwhile, men of God showered blessings on the head of state for his timely relief and interceded for an end to the pandemic. To Governor Mijiawa Bakari, the invaluable donation by President Paul Biya is timely, given that the region has just recorded its first case of COVID-19, hence the need for the beneficiaries to maximize the use of the package.
To use correctly this material put at their disposal, and also to observe measures taken by the Prime Minister, head of government, to enable people to live without COVID-19.
The huge stocks composed of soap, sanitizers, buckets and other accessories were handed to the senior divisional officers for eventual distribution in their respective administrative units. A welcome relief saluted by the mayors on behalf of the populations.
This gift come to resolve the problem that we face about the pandemic. We want to thank the head of state for this very important gift.
This gift will help all the citizens to improve their condition of life. And when we have the possibility to wash our hands with the soap every moment, to drink a clear water.
The special donation by President Paul Biya comes barely days after a similar gesture by the First Lady, Mrs. Chantal Biya, through her Circle of Friends of Cameroon, CERAC, to boost government's effort to contain the spread of the coronavirus.
Divisional officers in Fako in the Southwest region have received their own consignment of the gift to fight the coronavirus from the hands of the Southwest Governor Benia Okale-Abilai. The kits, which are part of the head of state's 2 billion francs donation to contain the COVID-19 pandemic in the region, has been described by beneficiaries as timely. Guy Roger Nana has details from CRTV Southwest in Boya.
The protection kits are made up of cartons of hand sanitizers, liquid and tablets of soaps, bleach agents, gloves and face masks, all to restrain the health workers at the Bogo Regional Hospital from being infected.
If the medical personnel are not safe, if they are not free, then the patients too are at risk.
The general supervisor for the Bogo Regional Hospital says the kits will go a long way to reduce the spread of coronavirus.
I've practiced protective habits of putting on a mask and also to do hand washing, which is gold standard.
The humanitarian organization ASCOVIM will also carry out a similar gesture at the Mutengene, Limbe and Tiko hospitals respectively.
And that was a humanitarian organization that donated sanitation kits to the southwest region. The sum of 50 million CFA francs has been distributed to the 3 subdivisions of the Kunki plus equipment to some 3 hospitals in the division to fight COVID-19. The cash and material were donated by the interim mayor of Pete Banjul, Nikki Love Maptui Fotso, during separate ceremonies, as Ngu Henry tells us in the following report.
The 50 million CFA will be distributed to the 3 subdivisions of the Kunki, 25 million for the Pumonyo subdivision, Bayangam 15 and 10 million for the Njebem subdivision. Meanwhile, the Banjul District Hospital, the Alutsem Hospital, like the Mbuo Protestant Hospital, benefited from the sum of 1 million CFA francs each, plus oxygen concentrators, surveillance monitors, thermal flashes, cartons of soap, gloves, face masks, disinfectants, sprayers, and buckets.
For all our mayor did for us, we tell her thank you.
The benefactor, who was accompanied by her brothers and sisters, has said that the solidarity move was to roll back the COVID-19 in the Kunki.
I have the duty to accompany my citizen, the citizen of Pete Banjul, in the fight against the COVID-19.
Kunki SDO Donatien the deputy head of the permanent delegation of the CPDM for the Kunki, like other bigwigs of the party, hailed the gesture and prayed God to guide the family of the late Mayor Futso Victor.
And on today's obituary, the death has been announced of the one-time Secretary of State and Technical Advisor of the Presidency of the Republic, Tikela Kemoin. The late statesman passed away this Saturday in Yaoundé at the age of 70. Gilbert Ongene was at the deceased residence and now reports.
Sorrow and consternation is what welcomes us here at the residence of the fallen statesman at the Nouvelle Route Omispor neighborhood. His kindred remember him as a multi-dimensional, hard-working and committed personality, father and brother.
He was a humble person. He was a kind person who loved everybody. And it is a big loss for our family and for the family of Mayokani, and eventually for the family of his political party.
The former Deputy Minister of Finance, Secretary of State in the Ministry of Agriculture and Educationist, leaves a legacy that should be perpetuated.
The legacy our father leaves behind is a very big one, because in his life, he did not have much money, but many friends. He taught us to always thrive, to be competent in everything we do.
The married man and father of 7, who was technical advisor at the presidency before his demise at the age of 70, would be laid to rest in his hometown of Kaili in the Mayokani division of the Far North region.
And may his soul rest in perfect peace. Let's now have the full declaration of the Prime Minister, Chief Dr. Joseph John Gote, uplifting certain barrier measures to caution the effects on enterprises.
Ladies and gentlemen, as part of the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic, on 17th March 2020, the President of the Republic, His Excellency Paul Biya, prescribed 13 measures to limit and control the spread of this pandemic in our country. On 9 April, additional measures were prescribed, including the compulsory wearing of protective masks in all areas open to the public. Given the rate at which this pandemic was spreading in our country, the President of the Republic on 2 occasions extended the restrictive measures taken on 17th March and 9th April for a renewable period of 15 days. Although these measures are difficult, they are necessary to ensure the protection of all and to limit the spread of COVID-19 in our country. These measures have created economic and social distortions whose effects are being felt in several areas of activity. The most concerned are undoubtedly the transport, hotel, and catering sectors, in short, trade in general. Faced with this situation, the head of state instructed the government to conduct a study to assess the impact of COVID-19 on the national economy and to determine the accompanying measures to be implemented to support sectors in difficulty as well as households that are most in need. To implement this instruction, the study was carried out following a participatory approach in conjunction with the private sector and technical and financial partners. In addition, weekly meetings to evaluate the implementation of COVID-19 response strategy have revealed that the actions taken by the government to contain this pandemic are beginning to bear fruit. Although screening tests reveal new cases of coronavirus positive patients, the number of people declared healed of this disease in our country has been on the rise. Furthermore, the mortality rate from this virus remains low compared to the number of positive cases. Considering the encouraging results observed in the implementation of the COVID-19 response strategy in Cameroon and the conclusions of the study on the socioeconomic impact of this pandemic on our economy, the President of the Republic, His Excellency Paul Biya, has decided the following easing and support measures in order to relieve the sectors hard hit by this health crisis. 1. The opening after 6 p.m. of bars, restaurants, and leisure facilities with the obligation for customers and users to respect barrier measures, in particular, the wearing of protective masks and social distancing. 2. The lifting of the measure reducing the mandatory number of passengers in all public transport by bus and taxi. The wearing of masks remains compulsory and overloading is prohibited. 3. The suspension for the second quarter of 2020 of general accounting audits except in cases of suspected tax evasion. 4. The postponement of the deadline for filing statistical and tax declarations without penalties in case of payment of the corresponding balance. 5. The granting of moratorium and deferrals of payment to companies directly affected by the crisis, hence suspending forced recovery measures against them. 6. Supporting the finances of companies through the allocation of a special envelope of 25 billion CFA francs for the clearance of stocks of VAT credits awaiting reimbursement. 7. The postponement of the deadline to pay land taxes for the 2020 financial year to 30th September 2020. 8. Full deductibility to determine the corporate income tax of donations and gifts made by companies for the fight against COVID-19 pandemic. 9. The exemption from the tourist tax in the hotel and catering sectors for the rest of the 2020 financial year as from March. 10. Exemption from the withholding tax and from parking fees for taxis and motorbikes, as well as from the axle tax from the second quarter. This measure could be extended to the rest of 2020. 11. Exemption for the second quarter from the withholding tax and council taxes, market duties, etc. for petty traders such as buyers and sellers. 12. The temporary suspension for a period of 3 months of the payment of parking and demurrage charges in the Douala and Kribi ports for essential goods. 13. The establishment of a Ministry of Finance mini-part consultation framework with the main economic actors in order to mitigate the effects of the crisis and promote a rapid resumption of activity. 14. The suspension for a period of 3 months, that is, April, May, and June, of on-site inspections by the National Insurance Fund. 15. The cancellation of penalties for late payment of Social Security contributions due to the National Insurance Fund upon recent request. 16. Spreading the payment of the Social Security contributions for the months of April, May, and June 2020 over 3 installments upon recent request. 17. The maintenance for the next 3 months, that is from May to July, of the payment of family allowances to staff of companies which are unable to pay Social Security contributions or which have placed their staff on technical leave because of the economic downturn, particularly in the catering, hotel, and transport sectors. 18. The increase of family allowance from 2,800 CFA to 4,500 CFA. 19. The 20% increase of old age pensions that were not automatically re-evaluated after the 2016 reform. In addition, the President of the Republic has decided to extend the measures taken on 17th March 2020 as part of the COVID-19 pandemic response strategy for an additional 15-day period, renewable if necessary. In conclusion, I urge the population to continue to strictly observe the barrier measures and all measures aimed at limiting the spread of the coronavirus in our country, in particular the systematic wearing of protective masks in all areas open to the public and the prohibition of gatherings. I also call on public workers who have abandoned their duty post under the pretext of confinement to return without delay to their places of work, failing which they will be subject to the disciplinary sanctions provided for by the regulations in force. Ministers have been instructed to ensure compliance with this, both at the central level and in the decentralized services of the state. It is by remaining mobilized, cautious, and determined that we will overcome this pandemic.
And that is where we draw the curtains on this edition of the 7:30 News. Join Karine at 8:30 for the news in French. I'll be back tomorrow, same time. Until then, it's bye from all of us on the 7:30 crew. Good night.